Hey folks, can you see this in the camera? This grain of sand right here that just blew away? Well, there's another grain. Let's see if I can put it really close. We're going to do a Christmas video today. We're going to talk about the grain of sand. This grain of sand represents your life and my life. There's another grain. See it real small, the wind just blew it away. Isn't that apropos? That song that says all we are is dust in the wind. We are a flower quickly fading, here today and gone tomorrow. A wave tossed on the ocean.
Careful in that wind, it's pretty sketchy.
He's saying that he's struggling with the wind. It is very windy here today. So that grain of sand that I had there till those winds blew it away represents this life. Let's give it a few revs. And let's do a Christmas message for Christmas. Here's what we're gonna talk about as we get on the freeway and look at the trees right here. Extremely strong winds. These are called Santa Ana winds. You know, literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres are burning. Unfortunately, people's homes are being burned down. See the American flag here? Put the video on full screen. See how strong it is? It's perfectly waving. You can see Old Glory right there. Here's what we're going to talk about today, guys. We're going to talk about your life, the grain of sand. We're going to talk about Jerusalem and Donald Trump coming out and actually recognizing Jerusalem as the capital. We're going to talk about what atheists believe, that this motorcycle just came from an explosion with absolutely no design whatsoever. And then we're going to talk about what Christians believe. Christians believe, wait for it, that this is a product of intelligent design. I used to be an atheist. I'm now a Christian. And so we're going to do a Christmas message. We like to do these Christmas messages every year. Usually the motorcycle is running around 200 Fahrenheit. It's 151 Fahrenheit. That's how cold it is here with these winds. So let's get started, and we'll do a hybrid video on how to ride a motorcycle also. So here's what we'll talk about. Grain of sand, Jerusalem being the capital, the U.S. finally recognizing that Jerusalem is the capital. We're going to talk about the gay cake, or as I call it, the homosexual cake. We're going to talk about how if the people are homosexual, I'm going to show you how you guys can have your cake and eat it too. And right now the Supreme Court is listening to oral arguments. That's right. You can't write comedy like this, folks. The Supreme Court is listening to oral arguments on the homosexual cake case. I mean, you couldn't write more of a funny script. You know, years ago, the militant homosexual community came out, so to speak, and they said, you know what, you just don't appreciate us. We love people that are in the homosexual lifestyle, even though it's a sin, but we love them, we really do. But they were very angry, and they said, we're going to come out with Day Without a Gay. I'm not making this up. You can look it up. And basically what it was is they were going to show society how we would suffer if there were no homosexuals in society. But the problem was this. People were waking up on that Day Without a Gay, and the sun was so beautiful, shining in the sky. The birds were singing so joyfully. It was beautiful. There was a wonderful odor, aroma in the air of nature. And I'm like getting pushed all over the street here with these winds. So now let's talk about the grain of sand, and then we'll talk about the cake in Jerusalem. And I believe that Trump, I'm going to say it, can be the best president we ever had in the United States. I'm telling you, there was a street preacher preaching on the street, and I was on the motorcycle, and I went up to him and I flipped my visor open and I said, "Hey brother," I goes, "you hear about Trump finally recognizing Jerusalem as the capital, and get this, we're going to move our embassy there, our U.S. embassy." And very loudly, so everyone can hear, he had a crowd around him, the street preacher said, "Well, it's about time we have a president that's not a wussy, that's not a wimp." And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, dude, you don't keep it down. But then I realized, oh, he wants people to hear this. But it is so refreshing. I love waking up in the morning knowing that Donald Trump is president. It is so great not to have Obama, our atheist, quasi-Christian, quasi-Muslim president. Our President Obama that said with a smile on his face, "We're no longer a Christian nation." And he ridiculed people that cling to the Second Amendment and God. This is just not right. You ever see that video where Obama had a hot mic on? He thought his mic was off, and he was telling one of the Russian envoys, the people there meeting with him, he was telling them, "Look, I can't remove missile defense right now, but my second year, my second time in office, I'll be able to do it." That is not what I want my president doing. So let's talk about the grain of sand. Jesus said, "Look, what does it profit you if you gain the whole world, but you lose your soul?" He really put an emphasis on being eternal minded. He didn't just talk about eternity, but he talked about this life, and the way that you act in this life will be radically different when you believe that there is an eternity with God. So, remember I was holding up that grain of sand till the winds blew it away? Imagine you and I are walking on the beach, and you have this grain of sand in your, like on your finger, like I did. And that grain of sand represents this life. This is exactly, precisely, absolutely what Jesus Christ was talking about. And all the other grains of sand, billions, trillions, unlimited, unable to count, all these other grains of sand represent eternity in heaven with God. Would you agree with me that it is ridiculous to put so much stock on the grain of sand, to put so much emphasis on the grain of sand? So life really does change when you're like eternally minded, like how Jesus said to be. And it's good to know, like, if you're struggling or you're going through some tough times, that God is faithful. God will make a way. Have you noticed that? When there's no way, my awesome God will make a way. He will make a way when it's impossible. He will make it possible. So why should you worry about this life? Seriously, you ever go to a funeral and it starts to shift things back into the proper perspective, and you realize this is how we're all going to end up? There was a street preacher And I was watching him, and he would go to these college. If you want to see a really good YouTube channel, type in Open Air Outreach. And is Jesse, and he's street preaching, right? And he is very good at what he does, and he draws these massive crowds, and he's going to these universities. They have these free speech zones at colleges and universities where you're allowed to talk about whatever you want. You know, I think that's good. Free speech zone. And he stands up there and he points to the crowd and he says, "You're all gonna die," as he's pointing to them. And this brings them back to reality as he's shouting. Check it out, Open Air Outreach. He says, "You're all gonna die," and he's pointing to them. And this gets their attention. It gets them to realize that their life is just like that grain of sand. What are you going to worry about, one little grain of sand? So this Christmas, I think it's good that we shift things into the proper perspective. This is not your home. If you're a Christian, you know, you're a sojourner. Easy for me to say. You're just passing through. No matter what you're going through, my God, your God, don't worry. He will make a way. Every time I talk to Christians, you know, we talked, you know, in fellowship together, I'm like, hasn't God been faithful? He has always been faithful. He will never let you down. God is so awesome. I love God. I love Christmas. Doesn't it seem, even in the air and the environment that you live, like where Christmas is, you could tell it's beautiful. It's absolutely awesome. I love Christmas time. Now, let's go on to, I hate to segue to the homosexual cake, but imagine this. Imagine you are selling a house and the buyer instructs you that you have to put this mural on the house of two women kissing, two lesbian women kissing, or two guys kissing. You know, two homosexuals, two lesbians. And you're a Christian. And you're like, well, I'm not going to put that mural up there. All right, we're getting on the mean, evil, unforgiving freeways of California. It's very windy here. What I've learned on these freeways, speed is life. Oh, the R1, so wonderful. By the way, when you're getting on the freeway, we want to do some motorcycle training. Watch how I ride. Don't ride next to people. Always make sure there's a bubble around you. I'll show you. It's going to be very windy because of the speed and the Santa Ana wind. Let's go up to 6. So you notice to my right and to my left, I have this protective bubble as I'm blowing around the freeway. Also, speaking of winds, if you're in strong winds, have a light hold on the handlebars. Don't have a death grip. When the winds blow, you want to be able to let your arms be like shock absorbers, where they take the shock of the wind, so you're not moving your handlebars around. But imagine, back to our story here, you're a Christian and you're selling your house, and they say, well, we want you to put this mural on the house, and we want two dudes on it, and we want them to be spooning, you know, snuggling up with each other as one kisses the other one's ear. And you're like, well, I'm not going to do that. Look, you can buy the house, but I'm not going to put this mural up because I'm a Christian. That goes against my personal beliefs. That's the same thing as the cake case. The guy has no problem. The cake shop owner, if two homosexuals, two sodomites come in there and want to buy a cake, you can buy a cake. They can decorate it themselves. But once you start ordering someone to do something that's against their religion, to type words or to do art that is against their religious beliefs, religion is a protected element, I'm blowing all over here, of our society. So it's going to be very interesting what the Supreme Court says. Now, I've heard other things that people said, well, why didn't the cake guy just put like cinnamon red hots on the forehead of the plastic man and the other plastic man, and then when they said, what is that? Say, oh, it's the full-blown AIDS virus. You're getting those things on your head. No, this is not Christian-like. But, you know, let's look at the sign. Gusty winds ahead. I can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that homosexuality is unnatural. And have you noticed it always goes the same way? The minute you start giving your Christian opinion about homosexuality, you have to like apologize. Now, you have to say this little, I'm not going to say it, but I've seen even some Christians that are scared because they're nice, loving Christians. They want everyone to be saved. They'll say, now look, before I tell you my opinion on homosexuality, I want you to know they're sinners just like us, and I love them, and I'm not like a bigot. And they have to actually, before they explain their position on homosexuality, they have to go to this altar of political correctness and bow down in front of it. And then they're going to have to filter every little thing they say. Let's get around this, dude. Through this altar of political correctness, because may God help you if you offend the militant homosexual community. You do not want to offend them. So I say to hell with political correctness. I'm just going to say we're going to talk about science, how science proves that homosexuality is unnatural. We're going to talk mathematics. We're going to talk biology. Look, imagine the world does an experiment and we get 100 men and we put them on an island. There's nothing else but food there. We put them on an island, food and water, where they can sustain their life as long as possible. And then society tracks this, and we say, let's go back in 200 years. When you go back in 200 years, there's tumbleweeds blowing. There's bones scattered everywhere, dead bones. We got a very fast motorcycle coming up on our left. Let's go up to 6. Why? Because they can't produce life. You can't produce life. It is scientifically impossible. Biology is against it. Get up here, dude. So, let's get 100 women. We put them on an island. Same thing, food, water. You go back in 200 years, bones everywhere. Why? Because it is unnatural. You cannot produce life. I debate this with the atheist community, and you know how they always say that they're all about science? Atheists are horrible with science and biology. It's funny how they throw biology and scientific facts out the window when it comes to their obsession with the promotion of homosexuality. I mean, they love it. They're obsessed with it. You can't produce life. Go to my website at shotgunout.com, and here's what I want you to do. At the website, it's going to say click here to get like a free audio Bible, like you can listen to it. And I want you to listen to Romans. It was recorded in front of a massive live audience. And it'll tell you why people choose homosexuality. That's right, it's a choice. This is what the Supreme Court justices were saying. See, you're not born... Have you ever been to a nursery at the hospital? And you see the little babies? I got to get over here, otherwise I'd get up with that motorcycle dude, but I got to get to the right. And it's always hard to squeeze in here to the right, but let's try it. Have you ever seen the little babies in the nursery? They're born boy or girl. I know sometimes they can have two sexual organs and stuff, but that's not really natural. That's like a handicap, a mutation, if you will. But normally, 99.9% of the time, it says boy and girl. So you never see a little baby crawl into the other nursery and start having sex with that little baby where one boy has sex with another boy. It's a learned trait. Sex is not what you are, per se. I know it'll say, what sex are you, male or female, right? But what I'm saying, the activity of sex is an action. It's not something you're doing 24/7. So when the homosexuals go into the cake shop, they're basically telling this guy to go against his Christian beliefs and to make the cake saying with the two guys on it and whatever text they want on it, and the Christian knows that Scripture calls that an abomination. Why do you think God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah? So it is going to be interesting to see what the court does, because you're not really born in the activity of having sex. And the cake guy said, look, if they want to buy a cake from my shop, I'll sell it to them. But I'm not going to participate in the madness. It's like the house analogy. You want to buy a house? Great. But if you want me to put up a mural on the house of two women kissing or whatever, no, I'm not going to do it. Now you're telling me to take part in the madness. See, tolerance is not acceptance. So he's like, yes, he does tolerate the people that have chosen the life of homosexuality. And before people say that you're born that way, do you know that 80% of all people that say they're either male homosexuals or female, like lesbians, 80% of them have had sex with the opposite sex. And it wasn't rape. They chose to do it. So why do they do it? Why do people reject God? There's a scripture that says, and go ahead to shotgunout.com and listen to the teaching on the sin of homosexuality. Click where it says listen to the Bible and listen to Romans. Even Jesus said a man shall marry a woman. So we need to pray for the guy at the cake shop, that he wins that case. What's next? You're going to be telling pastors they have to do a ceremony? This is what they're moving towards, you know. You know, they can go in and they can buy the cake. He has no problem with that because he's not partaking in it. He doesn't have to get involved with hearing about their sick lifestyle. They're buying the cake and then they leave. But if he has to start participating in it and spend hours of his time, you know, promoting the sinful lifestyle, we got a problem, don't we? Now let's talk about Donald Trump. Seriously. I think Donald Trump is going to go down in history as one of the best presidents ever. We predicted that, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Obamacare is toast. When Trump got in, he started signing some documents that basically got a wooden stake and drove it through the heart of the monstrosity of Obamacare. And guess what is in the tax bill? That's right. Another piece of Obamacare dies. You don't want the government to control your health care. Listen, what would you get if they did? You'd get health care with the speed and efficiency of the slow post office, the kindness and caring of the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, and the fiscal responsibility of our government, which is up to its eyeballs in debt. So, this could be prophecy in the making. Trump signs the order where we're going to have the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. Do you know other presidents were too wimpy to do that? That street preacher I talked to was right. Thank God we've got a man that's not afraid to do what needs to be done. If Hillary was in there, Hillary Clinton, if Hillary was in there, she wouldn't do that. And this is one reason why I don't know how someone could be a Christian and vote Democrat. I really don't. I believe you can be a dumb Christian and a smart Democrat and vote Democrat, or a smart Christian and a dumb Democrat and vote Democrat. But once you know that they're totally pro-abortion, they're totally pro-promotion of homosexuality, they're totally pro-socialism. Socialism, liberalism is theft, and stealing is a sin. Should a Christian vote liberal Democrat? No. No, 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 no. Never, ever, 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 under any circumstances. It is true, sometimes we have to choose between the lesser of two evils. This is why I am a conservative Republican. So I will go out on a limb and say, thank God for Donald Trump. What a wonderful Christmas. I bet Benjamin Netanyahu is like, finally, a president that has a backbone and not one like the previous one that had a spine of spaghetti. Finally, a president that says Islamic terrorism. Finally, thank God. This will be the best Christmas ever. What a wonderful Christmas. So remember your grain of sand, guys. Remember your grain of sand. I love you. God loves you too. Don't forget to go to shotgunal.com. Listen to Romans. Click where it says get a free audio Bible. And listen to Romans, how it talks about why there's a secret, why people choose the sin of homosexuality. God bless you guys. Have a great week.